Hello all my fellow Ashfordians. For this assignment we have been tasked with making a hands-on training video where people can do things that are hands-on, and I'm a firm believer in continuing education and educating everybody. I think our education should continue until the day that we take our final breath. So as I'm talking to you guys, you may have noticed from the previous video this black cord here. What it is that's an earpiece, which I can't hear anything through, and a microphone, and the microphone is where hopefully keeping the sound at a stable level throughout my communications with you guys. So what I'm going to teach today in this course, 5-minute course, is how to jump start a vehicle. Because while there may be a bunch of you out there that do know how to jump start a vehicle, if there's even one that doesn't, this may be a lifesaver for you someday. So here we go. What we have here is my 1998 Suzuki Sidekick Sport 4-door, 4-wheel drive with the big ugly grill on it, and it's all dented up and dirtied up and stuff. But I have 210,000 miles on this vehicle, and this vehicle still runs in pretty good shape. It's very dependable for me. Does not need a jump start, but I'm going to go through all the motions with you on how to do it. There are some important safety features to take into account when you're jump starting a car. Number one, make sure it's in park, and make sure that the emergency brake is on. You don't want to accidentally start your car and run somebody over. The next thing is where in the heck you open the hood. In mine, it's in the glove box, and it's a little handle that I couldn't even be able to begin to show you. But listen, there it goes. I just opened it up. And the next thing is every hood should have a secondary safety latch, and that can be felt underneath, usually in the middle. Here it is right there. And then put up, if your hood requires it, the bar that holds the hood in place. Now what you see here is you see the car battery. It's got a positive and a negative terminal. And this is DC current, not AC current. AC current is what you have in your house and your electrical outlets that can shock the living heck out of you. DC outlets or DC current cannot. So you can see I can touch both with my hand here. Nothing's going to happen, okay, because that's a direct current. But it's very important to identify the direct current terminal. Okay, your battery should have a plus on it. That's your positive, and a negative. Okay, also this is black, this is red. A lot of people who've done electricity work on their car have changed this stuff out. But you see another wire coming off here, and then a whole bunch of wires coming off here, versus this one will generally have just smaller wires coming off, okay, because it only has to go to ground. The next thing you're going to need is a pair of jumper cables, and this pair of jumper cables that I have is extremely old. I'm not even sure I bought these things. I think somebody gave them to me a long time ago, but everybody who drives should have a pair in their car. You just never know when you're going to accidentally leave the headlights on, that sort of stuff. And things you want to be careful about is something like this. You see an exposed wire. Now that's not going to shock you or anything, but what it can do is it can short out on the vehicle and cause a lot of electronics damage. So what I do before I jump start a vehicle is I'll take one set of cables, or one of the terminal cable terminal clamps, and hook it on in a place that isn't exposed so that they can't accidentally come in contact with each other and short circuit, thus short circuiting the battery. So after I've done that, what I'll do is I'll lay out my cables nice and long wise and safe and out of way, make sure they're not touching. And then what I'll do is always hook up your ground cable first, and your ground is the black one. Now you can hook it to the terminal. I prefer to hook it to my car on a piece of metal somewhere, okay, because then it's absolutely positively grounded. There's a nice piece right there that's pure metal that I've hooked it to. Also right here is a piece of metal, but this has rubber on it which can insulate it. Maybe, you know, who says this bolt is touching anything, okay, at all. So then expose your positive terminal, and you put on positive cable just like so. So you're already on this car, and what you want to do is you'll want another car to pull up right to the front of your car so they're facing nose to nose. All right, so here's a prime look of what the two vehicles look like. They're mirroring each other. pulled up face to face with each other. They're close enough to basically walk a body through. So again, here's the other vehicle, and you see that it has the negative terminal and the positive terminal. This one's a little newer and in better shape than mine. So we'll expose that positive terminal there. Got my cables here, and I want to do the same thing that I did on the other car. Like I said, you want to mirror them, which is you want to have the negative attached to the negative and the positive attached to the positive. You see that I'm holding them separate right now. I can drop my positive cable. The whole front of this car is plastic, so I don't need to worry about grounding it off against anything. So this one, there's a metal piece right there. Most cars have that metal piece right there that you can hook up a cable to, straight to the metal piece. And then our positive cable, maybe a little bit of sparks happening here. So here we are, about to start the car. Put the key in, turn on just the ignition. There we go, we have good electricity. Start the car, and there you go, car started up just fine. Still in park, emergency brake's still on. You can go out of the car, take care of the rest. Once the car started, see the headlights are on, everything's working just fine. You can now take off the battery cables. Now, since I respect other people's vehicles, especially some stranger who just gave me a jump start, I don't want to screw up their car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cables off of their car first, okay, to keep from messing it up. Don't touch it to any metal. There we go. And then take off the negative. Now you see I've hooked the cable to itself here. I can lay it down on the ground. You can come to your car here. Once you have this positive cable off, you don't have to worry about anything, okay? Nothing's going to ground out to itself. Hook it onto the other cable like so. Pull it off like so. Lay it down. You're all done with that. Then all you have to do is close your hoods and go. So once you've started your car, everything should run just fine. You can look at my radio here, and I'll change some stations here. And you can see it kept all the stations. That's pretty good. That means I didn't have any power surges come through my car. Now here's the deal, you got your car started. This is something that's useful if you have left your headlights on. Plainly, it is just simply drain the battery down. If this happened in the middle of winter during a deep freeze, it's 10 degrees or something like that, it could ruin your battery. Once your battery no longer has those electrons in them, it can freeze and crack cells. Now, if this happened to you while you're driving down the road and you jump started your car and it started, as soon as you pull off those jumper cables, the car dies, that means your alternator's dead, which is really simple, or your voltage regulator that sits on your alternator. And that's a really simple way to troubleshoot a car problem. Your car died and just driving down the road. That means your alternator died. It could mean the alternator belt came off. But it's a real easy way to determine, because a lot of people are going to be like, oh, let's take your alternator off, take it to AutoZone, they'll put it on the bench, they'll test it, see if it's producing. That does work fine. But if you're not mechanically inclined to do so, or you don't want to waste all that time doing it, simply jump start the car and leave the battery cables on for 30 seconds or so. Take off the jumper cables. If it dies within a minute or two, or a few minutes, you know that your car isn't producing the electricity. Because here's how cars work. They all have computers now. And if it doesn't have a trickle of electricity going to the computer, which comes from the alternator, it doesn't come from the battery. Okay, so the battery starts it, gives it a little trickle start, and then to keep it going, it gets its electricity from the alternator. If the alternator is dead, as soon as you unhook those battery cables, your car is going to die, because it can't run off just the alternator itself, because the alternator is dead. So that is how you jump start a car. Be safe. Don't get your fingers caught in anything. You now know how to do it. You have been empowered. Go out and practice it. There's nothing wrong with practicing something like this before you need it. Because when you need it, it's usually dark and it's raining and you're in a part of town that you're unfamiliar with, and whoever stops to help you isn't going to have jumper cables. So get your own jumper cables too. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you've learned something.